Yes, sir. Backroads Bird Dogs. September 2023, Labor Day weekend, dove season. It's big time. It's a bittersweet time. It's a long-standing tradition. Dove hunting and race weekend in Darlington, Hartsville, South Carolina. It'll be the second year without my dad, but still going to be a reunion of all the friends. Be a lot of stories told about them and a lot of memories of them this weekend. We got Marsh Deans in here. Marsh is our videographer, director, historian, storyteller, wordsmith, all around camera ninja. And Connell O'Brien's in the back.
Yeah.
Hey, Connell.
So how long have y'all been doing this trip specifically? Does this go back to when you were young?
Yes, actually, so this was a tradition. My dad was dove hunting before I was born. So, and the story goes that I was 2 years old and my uncle called my dad and had a hot wood duck hole. My dad couldn't get a hold of anyone to keep me. So he carried me on the duck hunt at 2. A lot of the old guys have passed on that we traditionally hunted with, more than I'd like to remember aren't here anymore. The bright side of that is their grandchildren are now hunting these same places that we have hunted for 50 plus years. This is David's family farm, 6 generations, I think, of farmers there, and we're gonna have David Seegers on here. He's invited us over to this hunt. His is another place that we've traditionally hunted. So these dove hunts have occurred at lots of different locations. The way that sunflower and row crop farming works, there's a combination of herbicides that will and won't work, so you can't do the same fields annually. You have to do some rotation. So therefore we move around. And the farmers choose that, what suits them, what they've got growing. They usually will try and align their sunflower fields near some cornfields for us. Those are the optimal foods. So you'll hear us talk about these traditional hunts, and they could have happened at one of 100 different fields. And some years they would be hosted by different farmers. But there has always been a gathering on Labor Day weekend. Big hoo-nanny, dove hunt all weekend long, 3 days, and fellowship, families.
Is it like the city of Hartsville, or are there separate groups in Hartsville that come?
Oh, it's separate groups. It's separate groups for sure. So in the past, we would have up to 200 people at a party. So you would, that would at least be 100 families, probably more. Not all participated in the hunt. Sometimes they did. The management practices and hunting rules for doves have changed over the years. 25 years ago, you could spread wheat in September, so you could turn any field into a dove field, and we would do that. We'd have incredible numbers, and so even a small field would support a huge number of guns because you could take turns. You could go out and get a limit 30, 45 minutes, and you go back to the shade tree and drink beer and hang out on the tailgate, and someone else would go sit in your blind and get themselves a limit. We over the years, we've toned it down. Since you couldn't spread wheat anymore, that meant you had to plant and manage for doves, and that there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of time that goes into that. So that kind of took away the traditional old free-for-all, bring all your buddies type hunt, and it became dove clubs. And so you'd have Wednesday, Saturday hunts is what we've done for the last probably 15 years. And there'll be some other hunts mixed in there. Sometimes doves just like a field that's been harvested. And so we'll have impromptu hunts if they get a lot of birds.
Multiple layers of tradition, right? This is a family tradition that you connect to your dad with, but there's also other families that kind of are building their own traditions through this event. They're taking away very similar things as you are, but also maybe some different things. And then also, this sort of thing has been taking place here on this land for thousands of years. As the crops turn and the birds come in, people gather, and I'm sure this very same thing, using dogs to flush birds, is something that has a at 10,000-year tradition here.
Oh yeah. Who knows how long? There's definitely Native American presence here on this property, and in documented times of history, it has proven to be game rich and provided a lot of memories and generational memories. You know, promoting the heritage and the management, which is. And David's going to talk about this when we see him. I'm excited for y'all to hear from him, because he's going to talk about what goes into owning that type of property and keeping it and being able to share it with others, what that looks like, you know, from a business aspect and from a heartfelt aspect, and the responsibility that he feels to the ones who came before him, that left it to him to manage. So the fact that he invites us and allows the people to have these fun times with it is just something huge, and it's special to the South, and it's special to me. And you said individual families, but ultimately this weekend, all these individual families will come together and be one. So every adult will be looking out for every kid. Safety will be promoted. We're going to feed everyone. The kids will be allowed to ride the four-wheelers around the field. You know, it's a time for them to cut loose. The rule my dad used to say to us when we were young, and to all the young ones we've carried over the years, when you go to the doghouse or one of these dove fields, you say there's no whining, there's no tattling, and if you tell your mamas what you did while you were here, you can't come back. And that usually handled most of what the kids would bring. So it's going to be a fun time, and I really am thrilled to show it to new people. That raises the level of fun this is for me, and this is at the peak of fun. Nothing I'd rather do than dove hunt.
This also sounds like a learning opportunity for the kids. I've worried the past few years, especially, you know, with the lockdowns and less kids going outside, less kids enjoying the great outdoors, and also camaraderie in the outdoors has seemed like it's been, you know, waning in mainstream society. And it's good to hear that things like this are going strong, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's such a neat thing to see that in my hometown. I know that the numbers across the nation show that hunter recruitment is down, but you don't see that where I live, where we live here in South Carolina, Hartsville particularly. These same adults that we'll be hunting with, I hunted there as a child. We went to the Green Wing put on by Ducks Unlimited. We took our hunter safety courses together. We're real fortunate to say that, you know, that we've been safe throughout all these years, these guys, and they share that with their kids too. So there's a lot to learn out here. There's a lot to explore, and there's a lot of freedom that these kids get out here that they're not allowed in a lot of circumstances, and I think it's important for them.
Is this where your, I guess, relationship or your passion with bird dogs maybe started? Was with these family hunts?
So without a doubt, it did, without a doubt. So these dove hunts, and my dad was a member of the Outdoor Club. It's a small club of outdoorsmen in Hartsville, but fine gentlemen, most all of them. And those guys are who I looked up to. And you know, my Uncle Billy had a black lab named Dutch that was an excellent retriever. Greg Lawson had a dog named Babe. Ronnie Amerson and Lewis Brown had bird dogs, and that was fascinating to me. So at 11 years old, my Uncle Billy gifted me a pup off of Dutch named Smut, and that was my first gun dog. And so Smut and I were fast friends for quite a while. He met an early demise, story for another day. Went a few years without a dog. At probably 18 years old, I was gifted a couple of English pointers that were washouts from the horseback trials, and I started bird hunting. And, you know, but it was those men that led me to it. I looked up to them, and they were having fun, and they were successful, and dog boxes on dogs and briar pants. Man, I was down for that. And nature's always been where it's at for me. So anything outside, I was down, and then dogs too, absolutely. So that started the journey, and my dad's sportsman and was smart enough, kind enough, gracious enough to introduce me to the authors from the South, Archibald Rutledge, Havilah Babcock, Robert Moore. And these guys quail hunted down here and lived the hunting outdoor lifestyle. So I just gobbled all that up, and it's really kind of all I ever wanted to do. And I owe it all to my dad and his cronies.
So from there, when did you start breeding dogs? Was that what you always wanted to do, or how did you fall into that?
Yeah, so breeding dogs was something I wanted to do. At a really early age, I wanted to make a living in the outdoors. I wanted to own dogs. Breeding, I didn't know about breeding. I certainly didn't know enough to be a breeder at that point. But over the years, just looking, and so what led me to breeding is having a dynamic dog that was like, goodness gracious, we need to make some more of these. And Eula, my French Brittany, she was that type of dog. She was just a barn burner, great bird finder, full of desire, full of passion, full of drive, full of retrieve, just full of it all. I mean, she was hard to handle, but nothing soft about her. And French Brittany breed, and this is a general statement, can be a softer type of breed. And Eula's not that way. She trains like a Labrador or Chesapeake. And if you're a dog person, you'll know what that means. They're just more obstinate, and they can take pressure and push on through. With her and some goading from a few others that she needed to be bred, we started that process, and we tried to litter puppies, and Eula reproduces herself really well. And so we made several litters with her and got a few other dogs along the way, and now it's something that we just enjoy having them around, raising them. We've really got a program that we do while we're whelping the pups that we feel provides a foundation that you're gonna have a solid dog. It's not gonna run into a lot of the typical stuff like anxiety, separation anxiety, and gun shyness and that sort of thing. We're going to build a little fortitude in that puppy while we have it when it's young. So the opportunity to do that, learn and grow, and make more really nice dogs is what got us into breeding. And what we tried to do is tone that down a little bit with Eula. So we've looked for calmer males that share similar attributes with drive, but were a little more trainable, biddable. And I think we've been fairly successful with that, particularly with Grayson Geyer and Lost Highway Kennels. His dog Pete and Eula have made 2 litters, and I shit you not, they are all Class A bird dogs.
We continue our drive out of Georgetown, through Williamsburg, Florence, and into Darlington County. This part of South Carolina is filled with rich history. We pass by Revolutionary and Civil War markers, and Stump fills us in on some more recent stories along the way. This show is about noticing the details as we experience important places and share these stories with you. This hunt is merely just an excuse to get together in the places that we love, to exercise our old human traditions that bond us together as one. We find our way into his old stomping grounds, pull into a field with a few pickups of old friends awaiting. Hugs are exchanged as the dogs bound around, everyone greeting each other and catching up on old times while looking forward to the times anew. David Seegers is a farmer and has prepared these fields for the upcoming weekend. We already see a flock of doves settling into these fields, the sunflower drawing a number of species.
All right, guys, today I'm here with lifelong friend and fellow outdoorsman David Seegers. David is a 6th-generation farmer. His family's been here for over 150 years on this same land, David's seen a lot of changes over the years. This place is historically known for having a good population of bobwhite quail. We've seen that fluctuate a lot in our lifetime. David's making some efforts to bring it back. David, tell us some of the challenges and what you're doing to help get them going again.
A lot of it's just changes in agriculture. The landscape of farming today has changed a lot over the last 150 years.
Sure.
Whereas used to be a lot more patchwork. It was smaller parcels, many different crops in one block of land.
Sure.
So now we're all operating larger. Some of those habitat opportunities have been taken away. We've opened fields up like these around here for irrigation.
Right, hedgerows have disappeared, become a thing in the past, wood lines through the middle of trees, fence rows, all that's gone now, but pivots have come into play, and that's providing a new opportunity.
That's right. So I'm kind of working on looking at what we're doing on our farm now is trying to really look at each parcel of land and identify what's most productive, and obviously that's going to be what's under our irrigation. So that leaves us an opportunity to take something that's maybe not quite as productive, you might say stop the bleeding, and turn it towards something more of a passion project.
Sure.
We're going to look at creating some habitat, leaving some areas out.
And what you're talking about there is these pivots work in a circular motion. They pivot off a center point, so your fields become more circular, and that leaves corner in what traditionally have been square blocks of land.
That's correct. That's right.
Yeah.
And then if we can focus on an area like where we're standing now, and I'll admit at a different time in my career, I would have wanted this to be mowed as clean, and I felt like that was a judge of my operation, is how neat things looked around my farm. And it still troubles me sometimes. I want to go chop down some stuff. But I'm trying to educate myself on that there's a lot of benefit to the chaos that can be in just nature doing its own thing.
You know, absolutely. All this low, short stuff here is great brood habitat for bobwhite quail. It provides a lot of ground feed for doves. Small game benefits from you leaving this extra stuff out. It provides transition cover for those quail to move from one block of woods to the next block of woods.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job with it. The place is beautiful. We know your quail numbers are on the rise again. Your dove hunts have been excellent. You're a gracious host, and we appreciate you sharing it all with us.
We sure do enjoy any opportunity to share it, Stump, and just always a pleasure to have you with us.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, bud.
A short drive down a dirt road brings us to Turkey Creek Hunt Club. Again, the dogs bark with excitement at the new visitors and familiar scents. Here, they can have wide open spaces to get all of their energy out. It is scenes like these that bring a smile to our faces. As we humans catch up, the dogs have a safe and wild place to play and explore. Just like children, they need such activities and socialization. My own beagle, Atreyu, is an interesting case. He is a rescued in Vigo beagle, spending the first few years of his life in a treatment facility, mishandled along with thousands of other dogs, with no training nor kind treatment. I've had him for almost a year now. He started out feral and terrified, but has now found what it means to be a dog again. He still has a bit of anxiety, but in every instance he has shown friendliness and playfulness with his fellow dogs. It is my great joy to bring him along on this opening weekend of dove season. He has never hunted before, but this time with other dogs in the great outdoors is crucial for his development and his spirit. To bird dogs, dove season is always a delight. The beginning of a time of year spent traveling, playing, and hunting outdoors. This is what she is bred for, providing food for their families, something they understand and take their own pride in. Stretching far back to their wolven times, for far longer than we humans have been here, this land has known packs of hunting canines. More friends roll into Turkey Creek, the first buck of the season harvested today. A good break in his dry spell, it seems. Humans harvesting a deer, with their dogs alongside, sniffing in excitement for the prospects of such important sustenance. This is a tradition that dates back on these lands 15,000 years. The hunters here were telling us that they make venison jerky and sausages for their dogs that can last all year. As we gather by the fire, recounting stories, people of our past lives, we smile down at the dogs, remembering those that have passed. These are ancient traditions that we have passed down through millennia, camaraderie and anticipation of the hunt under the full moon and unpolluted stars. We are so proud to share this heritage, and we look forward to opening day of dove season next time on Backroads Bird Dog.